Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, where it's a good time of year for us because obviously the World Sudoku Championship has just happened. Congratulations to Ken Endo on winning his first World Sudoku Championship. He's also looks like he's doing incredibly well in the World Puzzle Championship as well, so it would be a fairly unique double if he's able to do both those competitions in the same year. But I want to talk about the puzzle in the World Sudoku Championship that seems to have made the most difference to the overall result. A single puzzle, and you can see it in round 12 here. There is a huge disparity between the scores at the top end of the field, with Ken managing to get 280 and Tan also achieving 280, which means they actually finished the set of puzzles in round 12 and got bonus points. But several of the top solvers not finishing, and actually not finishing by a lot. Now what could be going on? And Sam, who was part of the UK team that went to the World Championship in Germany, said that the problem, or not the problem, but the challenge that the solvers faced was in this sequence in round 12. So it's a series of puzzles that are linked together. So you can see in order to, you have to firstly solve these puzzles in order to get digits that you're able to put into the second puzzle, etc. So if you get stuck on a puzzle in this round, you are completely stymied. And this puzzle, a so-called Toroidal Odd Sudoku, was the one that apparently caused a lot of issues. A very, very difficult puzzle, and it's the puzzle I'm going to try and solve for you today. So I don't know how long this video will be. We shall see. Now, this is a 55-point puzzle, and that's 55 out of 250 points for the round, and the round lasted 25 minutes. So, yeah, you can see that in theory we should be doing this puzzle in 5 minutes if we're on to the World Championship standard pace. I'm guessing that we won't be able to do that. Let's have a quick look at the rules. You can see this is it's a 7x7 grid, so it's smaller than a standard Sudoku. And what does it mean by toroidal? Well, I mean, it's difficult to see, but if we look at this, let's look at the bottom here. You can see there's sort of a 1, 3, 4, 2 and a 5 that are all part of the same shape. Well, that shape, you might say, where are the 6 and 7 in that shape? Well, they're actually at the top of the grid, here and here, because this shape actually, like a donut, goes round and comes back in at the top. So that's what it means by toroidal, so that's already fairly complicated. And also the grey cells must contain odd digits as well. So this is going to be completely mind-blowing, okay? So one of the things I like about this channel is that it gives us an opportunity every day to really stretch our brains, and me as well. You know, when I'm solving these things live, I really, really have to think on some of the harder puzzles, and that, I believe, is good for me. Okay, so here's the puzzle that caused the world's best solvers so much trouble. You can see it's a beautiful looking puzzle. You know, we've just got 6 digits at the top, fixed into 3 different boxes, and grey lines, 2 grey lines down the diagonals. If you want to have a go at the puzzle, just click on the link under the video. That'll take you to our website where you can have a go. You should see exactly what I'm seeing, and do let us know how you find this puzzle. Now, right, okay, I can actually write a digit in here. I can write this square in. So if you're not seeing it, have a stare at it and see why I think I can write this square in. And the reason is this 6 is a bit of a gimme, because it sees this square, it sees this square, and neither of these squares can be a 6 because we know that the grey cells are odd. So actually I can get a digit in the grid straight away. So that's a 6. I'm guessing that Kotomorinishi et al. Wrote that in immediately as well. Now this 4 also makes that square a 4, because this one can't be a 4 because it's grey. Now this 5 means that one of those 2 squares is a 5. These 3 squares must be 1, 5 and 7. So no 7s in the grid at all. And what next? Oops. I don't really have any tips for Toroidal Sudoku, by the way. You may be saying, well, what's the main tip for Toroidal Sudoku? Staring at it, that's my main tip. Trying to get your head around the feel of the shapes, which I appreciate is not the most brilliant advice, but right, well look, this 6 means there's no 6 in either of those two squares. Now I need to put a 6 somewhere in this shape, so it's going to have to be down there. Now, okay, and now this 6 also means, where do I put a 6 in this shape? So you can see that it must be in one of those two squares, because it can't be in a grey square. Now this might be interesting, because obviously the 6's in this shape here and the 6's in this shape at the bottom are in the same columns of the grid. So we know that in the finished grid the 6's will either be in these two squares or these two squares. Either way, there can be no 6's in any of those squares. Now, oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, okay, so now if there's no 6's in either of these two squares, and there's no 6's in either of these two squares because of the pencil mark 6's, and there's no 6's in those squares because they are grey squares, you get a sort of similar effect to up in the top right. That square is a 6. And now this square, let's just think about this one. So there's no 6. Hang on, there's no 6's over here because of these 6's there. So there's no 6's there. So the 6 must be in one of these 5 squares on the right hand side. And it can't be in the grey squares. And it can't be here because of this 6. And it can't be here because of that 6. So that is a 6. Now this 6 sees that square. So that is a 6. That is a 6. And we are getting some numbers in the grid. I think that's got to be a 6 in the centre. Let me just check that. Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got my 6's done. Okay. Fours, maybe. Maybe that. You can see, where are we going to put a 4 along row 2? This can't be a 4 because this 4 is in this shape. So there's a 4 in one of those two squares. Now that means there's no 4 here, and that means nothing. Well, nothing that I can see. Bother. Right. Right, sorry about this. If it costs, or if it was difficult for the world's best solvers, then it's probably going to be reasonably tricky for me as well. So let me just, I'm going to have to stare at this for a minute now. See, that square's a 3 or a 7. I'm not sure that's going to be helpful, but three, 1, 2. How on earth do you do this? Whoa, I'm struggling a bit here. This could be a long video. Now, hang on. Right, now this shape still needs a 2 in it. We've got the 4 and the 6, so the 2 is therefore in one of those two squares. Right, now that means that there's no 2 in either of those two positions. Therefore, there's a 2 in one of these squares, because obviously these squares are a single shape. So now these two can't be a 2, so there's a 2 in one of those two positions. Oh, good grief! This is going to do something, I think, because now look at this shape. I need to put a 2 into it. Now, because of the 2 up here, the 2 is in one of those 3 squares. Now, actually, that one can never be a 2, because if it's a 2, it rules out both of these squares from this shape. So the 2 is, that is incredibly hard to see, but it is in the bottom row. Now, can we do anything with this? Well, yes, perhaps. Yes, we can, can't we? Because now there's no 2 in this square, and I need to put a 2 in this shape. So the 2 must be in one of those two positions. Good grief. So that's a 2. This must be a 3 to complete the shape, because I've not put a 3 in this shape yet. So that must be a 3. Now, this shape doesn't have a 3 in it yet, so the 3 must be in one of those two squares. And look at these 2's. Yes, yes. In the finished grid, if we look at the 2 arrangement here, either this square and this square will be a 2. Now, if that's the case, where do we put the 2 in that block? You can see, because this can never be a 2 because it's a grey square, that would make this square a 2. So if these two are 2's, this square is a 2. Now, if on the other hand these two squares are 2's, which is the only other thing that could happen, then because this one can't be a 2, that square would be a 2. So there is 2's pointing vertically here in column 2 at that square. So that square is a 4 and that is a 2. Now, wow, I can see how I can... Let me just check the 2's a bit more, because now we've got 2's ruled out from those squares, because these 2's all dotted around the grid. So that's a 2. And you can see this 4 is eliminating those two squares. This 4 is eliminating that square. These two squares are grey, so that's a 4. And now in this central shape, there must be a 4 in one of these two shapes. And one of these two cells, I should say. 2, 4, 6. Now, what can we do next? Yeah, okay, and now we need to still put a 4 in that shape. Now, it can't be along there because of this 4 here. It can't be here. It can't be either of those squares, so it's actually there. And now this shape needs a 4. And actually, I think that is the only valid position, because obviously this 4 and this 4 are ruling out all of those and that one. My goodness. This 4 sees that square. So are we going to get... Have we done all the 4's? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, we have. So we've done all the 4's. Okay. Okay, so what now? You may well ask. 2. Oh no! Oh, I wondered. So I've got 3s into those 2 squares, and I noticed that I've not put a 3 in this shape yet. So the 3s here are in the same rows of the grid. So this square cannot be a 3. Because if I try and put a 3 here, you can see that would mean this square and this square would both have to be a 3. We get a repeated 3 in column in row 2. So this is not a 3. So, I feel like I'm saying so a lot, but so one of those 3 squares must be a 3. Oh, wait a second, I'm just going to highlight that, because look, these 3's here. Whoa, 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 whoa. So that rules out a 3 from this square. Now I need to put a 3 in this shape. Now I have a 3 up here, so there's a 3 in one of these 2 squares. Now that does marry up, look, with those 3's. So all of a sudden, where can I put a 3? Because again, we've got the same trick going on. We've got 2 different areas with 3's locked into rows 4 and 5. So there cannot be 3's in those squares. And there cannot be a 3 here because of this 3. And there cannot be a 3 because of that 3. So there is only one square in this shape that can be a 3. And it is that one. That is mind-blowing. Now, let's go, because now this square has to be a 7. And, oh, have we cracked the puzzle? Because now there's a 3-5 pair here, and that means this is not a 3, this is a 3. These 2 squares must be 1 and 7 in some order. 5. And now this 3. These 2 3's now pointing at this 3-5 pair. So that's a 3, that's a 5 now. This 3 is pointing at this square, so now this is a 3, and this is a 3. I think we might be on the right lines. That resolves the 2's, that resolves this 2 over here, look. Can you imagine trying to do this under time pressure in 5 minutes? I mean, right, these 2 squares are 1 and 7. This must be a 7 to complete the column. So that's a 1, that's a 7. These 2 squares are 1 and 5. I don't think I can quite resolve that. I can put a 5, look, into this shape here. It must go here. I think probably we're going to find that we have cracked this. I really hope so, because we're starting to get, once you reach a tipping point in a puzzle this small, it can quite often just fall over. Yeah, this 5 is ruling out this square from being a 5, so this one must be the 5, that one must be a 1. Therefore that's a 1. We need to put a 5 into the central column. This square must be a 7 now. That must be a 1. This must be a 5 to complete the row. 7, 1, 5, 7. That should be a 1, I think. This should be a 7, and that looks like it works. Oh, what a puzzle. What a puzzle that is. Now, I know it's slow. Apologies for that. Do let me know in the comments whether I've been particularly simple today or whether actually that is a monster. It might be a monster. Yeah, fascinating puzzle though, and I should say that this puzzle was by Richard Stolk, the fantastic compiler of clearly, you know, some sort of genius grade. So loved it. Thank you, Richard, for that. We'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.